Good morning, everybody, and let's get started from our action from last Thursday. First point, fire away, Joe. Okay, doesn't seem like much is going on here, but this is just to emphasize the importance of what do you do with the ball. So, short lob goes up to Amy, and right away her goal is go ahead and tee off on it on Laura, and the cool thing about it is Laura sees this coming, but doesn't really matter sometimes when you hit such a good ball right in on her. There it is. And what I also want you to do is to pay special attention here to Joe, and you can see how Joe has moved up into the court in case that ball does come back over. Generally pretty weak, and you don't want to have anybody get lucky on you. Okay? So good job. Let's move on here to number 2. Okay. Couple of things here. Number 1, this shot should be used a lot more for people returning serve, and that is attacking the net person, especially from the deuce side where Joe's at right now, only because you're driving this volley from a position of strength off your forehand and into the backhand. And you can see how she's reaching on it. Now, how do we make this better is if Joe has clued Amy in ahead of time before the point, if I get the right kind of serve, I'm going right at Laura at the net, because I want you to look at what Amy, what happens with her positioning here once the ball starts going into play here. And you can see she's moving a little bit to her left away from the situation that's happening, because what's maybe on her mind is Joe's going to go cross court, Amy's going to move up to cover that cross court return and move up to the net, but instead Joe goes over here, and this is what kept Amy from running this ball down, because she did have some time with it, but you can see that's quite a distance to cover, and that's where the receiver, one of the things we can start working on is communication to your partner, what you intention will be with the return, just to give them a heads up. Okay, so let's move on to point number 4. Okay.
Yes.
There it is. Okay. Now, what's really cool is this happened right after the previous point where Joe went at Laura, and in this case, again, the serve comes in, and look how Amy is, if you look at her position, how she's able to step up even closer. And Laura is thinking about possibly intercepting this. Instead, Amy doesn't cooperate and does the right thing and just drills it. And again, look where Amy is in the court here. When you're able to hit return of serves or a ground stroke or any balls in this situation, attacking the person close to you really pays a lot of dividends on the court. Okay. This goes to show you that you can't win every point when you're doing the right thing. So here it is. Again, take note where Amy's taking this return of serve, and so she can really play a strong return and get in there. You can see how she's getting up in front of the service line, and now she's got this ball above the net. And this is your general guideline. When the ball's above the net, go ahead and attack the person in front of you. If the ball were below the net, not the best idea, and generally speaking, you'll go cross court with the volley back to the baseline person. So in this case, what's really nice is I'm looking at Laura here, and Laura is really preparing for the fact that Amy's going to come right at her. And Joe has done a nice job here and has moved over a little bit, as he should. Instead, Laura makes a very nice pickup from her feet and goes with a half volley lob up the center of the court. that's okay. Those kind of situations, obviously, you're going to win 3 out of 4 times minimally, and that occasional ball that beats you, don't make any adjustments. Just keep doing what you're doing. Okay. The reason I'm showing this point is that a lot of times when we think about going up the alley, we tend to go strong. And what's real interesting is how Karen plays this ball, not in an attacking way, but plays it almost as a positioning or placement type of forehand. She's just going, and you can see her shot, if you look at it, is pretty much right on the single sideline. She wasn't going over into the alley with the intent of hitting a winner. It's just get the ball over there. And she just catches Joe, who's looking for more of a cross-court return. So the thing to learn on this is sometimes it's good to go at that person at the net with strength, especially if they're not moving at the net. But when they are, don't get excited. Just put the ball on the single sideline. You give yourself plenty of room for error, and you'll be perfectly fine with that. Okay? So let's move on to the next point.
Yeah, that's
All right. Lesson to be learned here. Let's see how this point develops out. Okay. It's really nice here. You know, Amy takes this first volley from a service line position. And as always, we always look at, she's reading a drive, so she's going to improve her position and move up. I think Joe is looking more, wasn't sure, is probably looking for, guarding that lob. But here's what's important in the point. I mentioned in the previous one, when the ball's above the net, that's a good time to attack the person in front of you. But when the ball's down below the net, and you can see how low this is a pretty downstairs volley to work at. And this is where this volley pretty much has to go back cross-court in nature, only because if you go to the person in front of you, as what happens here, you can't get enough on the ball to take time away from Laura's position, so now it just becomes an easy shot of just flicking a lob over your head. And so in those situations, when you get a low volley, we're not going to hit a strong volley, but the thing is with Karen is hit this good ball to your feet, but she hasn't advanced. So if you're in Amy's position, really all you need to do is just direct this ball just short cross court, just a little dinky volley, and you're pretty much out of harm's way, and a lot of times you're going to win the point off of that. And so from Karen's perspective, whenever you've hit that ball into somebody's feet, start moving up in the court. That's clearly the right thing to do there. Okay? So let's move on into our last couple points here to look at. Okay. Now see what's happening here is we can see Joe is backed up. We'd seen some good lobs from Karen's side of the net with Laura. So strategically, Joe had backed up to the baseline in front of Amy, or to be with her partner Amy. And so when you're in Karen's position here and you realize both people have moved back, you've got a couple of good options. One is, driving it hard and firm through the center because there's no one at the net. And instead she takes the other good option, then that is simply, if my opponents are going to be back behind the baseline, I think I'll just move up and chip the ball short. And look how short that is, and look how effective that is. Whenever you do this, after you've chipped that ball, follow it up with better positioning in the court and move up. Karen hits a superb shot here, but like we do sometimes, we tend to admire our good shot and not do anything with our feet. In case Amy runs that ball down, you can just shut her down by moving up. in front of your service line and really not give her any place to go with that. And we've got one more good point here to look at. Okay. And the reason I'm finishing on this one again is to reinforce that play. Again, look where Amy's starting her return to serve. She's already, 3-4 feet in front of the baseline. Karen's in good shape at the net, but now Amy gets the ball to her strength, and look how solid she is over her feet. She's got leverage, so why not take your better shot and go right at the net person, who sometimes they're looking for the ball going across the center of the court, and you can see how that pace, it goes right at her, and look how Karen's trying to get out of the way. So we saw this situation, I think, on 3 or 4 of the points that I reviewed today. So in your tennis this week, when you're in a position of returning serve, at least starting 4 or 5 feet in front of the baseline, and you get a ball into your strong side, feel free to go at the net person, but clue your partner in, because that way your partner is better prepared to reflex that ball, because most of the time your partner on the service line, in this position we're looking here at Joe, they're anticipating the majority of the time you're just going to go cross court, and you don't want them to be napping on this shot, because this again is one of the more effective plays that I think people underutilize, especially off of second serves, because a lot of our peers don't have strong second serves, and definitely a point of weakness, and one that you can take advantage of by going more through the net person. Okay? So good job, everybody, and have a fabulous Sunday.